today's technology, it's so amazing what you can do. We use an app called Otter, and there's a variety of different ones you can use. But you can talk and it records the vocal part of it, but then it transcribes it live as you're doing it. We don't want to lose the author's voice. It has to be the author's voice. If someone who knows that author is reading the book, it has to be like they're almost talking to them. They can hear their voice in the text. I think having a TV background has helped me greatly because I understand media, I understand advertising, I understand positioning in the marketplace, understood how to run a company, how to start a company from scratch.
And that's next on Bootstrapping Your Dreams show. So, the big question is this: how are ambitious people like us, who don't have a lot of resources, did not go to Ivy League colleges, were not born into wealth, how do we become resourceful enough, use our creativity, our dedication, and a little bit of crazy to bootstrap our way to realizing our dreams? Whether it is launching a new company, launching a new app, or making it to the top of the corporate ladder. That is the question, and this podcast will give you the answers. If you like this video, do not forget to hit that like button now. Or if you want us to improve our content, go ahead and hit the thumbs down button and give us your feedback in the comment section below. Here at Tetranoodle, we are passionate about entrepreneurship, technology, and innovation. Every week, we bring you insightful and engaging interviews, tips, tricks, and strategies to help you grow your business or rise in your corporate profession. So if you're new here, please consider subscribing. And do not forget to hit that bell icon so that you are notified when we publish new content. Hello and welcome to this new episode of Bootstrapping Your Dreams show. Today we'll be talking with multiple times best-selling author and CEO of Elite Online Publishing, who is also recognized as a renowned publisher and marketing expert. Her name is Melanie Johnson. Welcome, Melanie.
Thank you, honey. So nice to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Thanks a lot. Prior to getting into the publishing industry, Melanie owned and operated two independent TV stations in Houston and Dallas. She has been a news anchor, producer, financial strategist, and worked in public relations, promotions, TV ad sales, and programming negotiations. Wow, that's a very long resume.
Yeah, and I was Miss Michigan too, so you got that.
Oh yeah. Forgot about that. It's coming up somewhere in the interview for sure.
Yep.
All right. So obviously you have accomplished a lot of things in your career, Melanie, but why don't you take us to the beginning and tell us how this all started?
Well, sure. I started with a background in television. So I decided after I became Miss Michigan and gave up the crown, well, I was kind of in the middle of Miss Michigan, trying to figure out what I wanted to really do. I was an auto show model at the time and commercial actress. So really wanted to get into broadcasting. So I got my first job as a TV broadcaster. And then from there, that morphed into producing children's shows, doing PSAs, television production, public relations. And then I met my former husband, and we created a TV station. He had a license for a TV station down here in Houston, and we did an all-news station here where I was in charge of the news department, also produced the morning show there, ran a lot of behind the scenes, pretty much did a little bit of everything as you do when you're a company owner. I didn't do too much in the electronic engineering department. He was more of an expert there. And then our Dallas station was more syndicated programming, and then we did syndicated programming as well in Houston. And then as things happened, our marriage ended, and then he filed for bankruptcy, and we had two giant homes, and I had to reinvent myself. So at the time, I thought I was losing everything, and I turned the homes into rentals. Now, it's popular now, but this was before Airbnb. VRBO, which is Vacation Rental by Owner, had just started, and I took our summer home, which was 13,000 square feet, and turned it into a rental, and it started to be successful. We're realtors were usually the only ones who rented a home at the time, and they only rented 1 week for me, and I sold out the whole summer. So then I came back and did the same thing with my 25,000 square foot house. It was rather big, and I rented that as well and made a living doing that until both the houses were foreclosed upon because of the bankruptcy. And then I was out of a job and a place to live. So in the meantime, I started doing real estate development, and then the market tanked here as well with the oil industry. So the economy was coming back. Oil was at $100 a barrel, so real estate was booming, and then oil just took a nosedive. And I had gone to a Tony Robbins event, and they had said, watch out for a shift in the economy. So I came home and I started selling all the properties that I had, but I still had a couple that I had held on to. And in the middle of all this, you know, it always says to don't wish that the market was better, wish that make yourself better. I think Jim Rohn says that. And so I was always educating myself. I felt like TV was going to start to decline and be a dinosaur. People kept saying, don't you want us to go back into TV? And this was in 2008, 2009. I said, no, I really want to know more about the internet. So that's what I was studying and looking at. And during that process, I learned how to publish books. And a friend that I met there, Jen Foster, and I came up with doing a book writing retreat and publishing retreat. And we thought it would be just fun to do for one summer. I have a villa down in the Dominican Republic. So we took a group down there and published their books when we got home. And all of a sudden, people started coming out of the woodwork. Oh my gosh, I didn't know you were a publisher. I didn't know you could publish a book. So 2 months later, we incorporated. I said, I guess we have a publishing company now. And one thing led to another, and as real estate had kind of slowed down, the publishing started taking off, and I've been doing that ever since. And we've created over 75 authors that we've made all #1 bestsellers. And what I love about a book for a business and an entrepreneur is that it's the best form of advertising you'll ever get. I mean, I have bought and sold all kinds of advertising, right? I mean, I sold airtime on TV, and as a TV station owner, we did billboards, we did radio, we did magazines, we did all of that stuff. Of course, there wasn't Facebook ads then, but I just find that a book lasts forever. Like people say, well, what's the ROI on a book? Well, you know, if you're going to get a magazine article or if you're going to do even a YouTube video, it's there, but it's not like a book. A book is there for your lifetime. It creates income for a lifetime. You can leverage it for a lifetime. And there's so many ways you can leverage a book versus like just a video or a plain ad that goes away. So I'm just a firm believer in a book. It changes your credibility. Like getting the title of Miss Michigan, I have that for the rest of my life. Becoming a best-selling author, you get that title for the rest of your life. So that's kind of my little story in a nutshell.
That's great. Amazing story. And now, you know, you went from the show business or, beauty contest to writing, which is typically not the career path, it generally unfolds. So did you already have a knack for writing? Did you already know that this is what you wanted to do, or how did that happen? Yeah.
Not at all. I mean, I would have never said that I would become an author. I mean, the TV thing, yes, because I had done commercial actress in college. I was the weather girl. So I thought, that might be a natural thing for me to go into. But becoming an author and a publisher, if you would have said that to me 10 years ago, even 7 years I would have said, no, I don't think so. Mm-hmm. So, and I tell people, writing is not my strong suit. My son hates when I say that. Mom, you're an author. You're a best-selling author. You can't say you don't like to write or you're not a good writer. But I am more of a talker, is more of my way of communication. So when I sit to write, a lot of times I sit there and I get stuck and I'll do the same couple sentences over and over and over again, or the same paragraph. So with today's technology, it's so amazing what you can do. We use an app called Otter, and there's a variety of different ones you can use. But you can talk and it records the vocal part of it, but then it transcribes it live as you're doing it. So then you have this, you can do it as an interview style with someone. You can do it as your thoughts are just talking out loud. You can interview other people to get the content out. And then you've got a written text that you're starting with. And then you can give that to an editor / ghostwriter person to make it all make sense. I'm really great at organizing the content on how you should leverage your book, how you should position yourself in the book, how the chapters, how to start a chapter, all of that. But for me, writing is so much easier if I can just talk it and it's being recorded and written at the same time. So that's one of our big tips that we use for writers.
Yeah, I'm the same way. Like I like more visual and audio content rather than actually writing or reading. So I also use Otter in my day-to-day workflow because it's such an amazing tool. Yeah.
And I'll give you another tip too. So those people who maybe do write, or maybe they hire a writer to do a blog post for them. So here's a story of these guys who had a blog post. They decided to curate and take the best blog post and put them together. They made a book. So it was no extra work, really. I mean, the blogs were already edited. They just decided to put them in a certain order, and they made a book and published it. The book became a bestseller, and then the book became a movie, which is called The Minimalist. So it goes to show you, you can start with a blog that can turn into a book that can turn into a movie.
Awesome. All right, great. So let's dive into this a little bit more, because, as you know, we have a lot of entrepreneurs and professionals in the audience. So tell us how they can get started. Let's say, if they want to, first of all, understand what is the value proposition, why they should write a book, what will you tell them? And then once they decided they want to write a book, what is the process like?
Sure. Well, again, like we mentioned earlier, I think a book is the best way to position yourself in the marketplace. First of all, it makes you an expert right away. It means that you've looked at all this information, you've researched the information, and you're putting it into a book. And authors are still looked up to in this society, even worldwide, that people are impressed with someone who's written and published a book. So it gives you that instant credibility in the marketplace, makes you an expert in the marketplace. What we find with our authors, it gives them a reason to get media attention. So you're out there, man, I wish I could get some PR. I wish some radio station, TV station, talk show or something would interview me. Well, if you look at people who are even news commentators that are invited onto news shows as an expert, almost 100% of them have a book and are authors. So if you want to have, we've had several authors that have come to us that want to be positioned in that marketplace. One that's on PBS and BBC and Fox News as a regular commentator, and she's an author. Right? She became an author and we made her book a bestseller. We have another one who is a lawyer who is wanting to aspire to that. And immediately after her book came out, she was on the local talk show. She had a news spread. So you get that media attention. That's the other thing that it does for you. The other thing that it does for you, you can use it as a sales tool. So my business partner wrote a book called Books to Bucks, and it has a variety of different ways of how you can leverage your book to get clients. So one example of that is, let's say you've been trying to get that, we'll call it like the big ticket client. You've been trying to get to them and you can't get your foot in the door. But if you sent them, let's say you sent them a package, whether it's from Amazon or you wrap one in a box personal to them, their secretary is not going to open a package, right? Because they don't know what's in there for their boss. So it's going to go right on their desk. They're going to open it up. It's your book. It can have a personal note on there. You could even do a link that you could have a personal video that you sent just to them, right? That's a private video on YouTube. And then you can earmark the book with pages and say, listen, this is what I think will help your business to grow and increase your bottom line. And they go right to the page of what you're trying to sell them and tell them that's going to improve their business. So they're not going to throw a book away. No one ever throws a book away. And I tell people, all right, you sent a flyer out in the mail or whatever, but no one takes the flyer and brings it to bed with them. They take a book to bed with them and read it. They sit in quiet time and look through it. They touch it, they feel it, and they may pass it on to someone else. So you may get another client with it. So I just think it's one of the best tools that you can use. And then on top of that, you've now hired Amazon to work for you for free. So Amazon now promotes you. We had a New York Times best-selling author that their traditional publishing house didn't do an Amazon author page for them. So an Amazon author page is kind of like a Facebook page for an author. But Amazon populates that on the first page. So here this woman, very popular woman, Laura Langmeyer, I'll tell you her name. She runs a very successful business on how to invest and make millions of dollars. So her Amazon author page wasn't populating on the first page. So she brought us in, we redid it. And what you get on this page, which most people don't know, is you get 8 videos, you get 8 photographs, you get your bio, but our secret weapon is we always put all your social media links in there and links to buy your products and services in there. So once we did that, it's now number 3 on her page. So her business comes up. So when you look her up, her businesses, that page comes up first from Amazon. And then Amazon, you can follow the person on this page. So if they do anything or update it, it goes automatically, it gets emailed to people that are following you. So that's pretty cool.
That's great. That's great. And so, so what is the process like? You know, a lot of obviously a lot of people they do have a lot of thoughts and knowledge in their heads, but they may not be accomplished writers or editors. So how do they go through this process and write a book?
So there's a couple ways. One we kind of touched on earlier of repurposing your content, which I'm really huge on that because you've already put the work in, you already have this content. So it might be blog posts that we mentioned. You may have newsletters. You might have flyers. You may have pamphlets, brochures, instruction books, your sales pitches that you have, everything about your business that you already are telling people. Like when you go on to that sales call, you're telling them all the benefits of your product, all the top 10 things they should know about your product. So here's another way if you don't want to repurpose your content. Another great way is we call it the 10 by 10 by 4. So what this is, you take the top 10 frequently asked questions. And it can be more than 10. I'm not going to limit you to 10, but we just say take the top 10. The questions you get all the time over and over again about your product. When you're going in to talk to someone about it, they're always asking you pretty much the same thing over and over again. Then we say, what about the should ask questions? These are the questions that they should be asking you if they knew what you knew, right? Like kind of that inside behind the scenes type question. Then the 4 is to come up with 4 stories that answers each question. So I always kind of equate this to, if you ever watch a minister preach, usually they're always giving you the topic of the sermon, right? They might give you the biblical verse, but then they go into a real life story, whether it's a story from the Bible, it's a story about them, a story about someone they know, a story about somebody famous. So you want to start your chapter out with a story about transformation, about what answers that question or talks about that question. So once you do that, you pretty much have your chapters lined out. Like each question can be a chapter. And then you start each chapter with one of those transformational stories and then add the points of the benefits and the why they should do it and the how they should do it. And then keep adding more stories. So if you can have at least 4 stories per chapter, that's what makes people relate to you and really connect with you are those stories.
Got it. Okay, that's great. And how long do you think a typical book can be written, and what is the duration of this whole project if one undertakes it?
So the book writing part, like if you sit down and do the 10 by 10 by 4, you can have that done in just over an hour, where you've written all those out. So this would be my advice. Sit down for maybe 15 minutes and just everything turned off and brainstorm. What are the most frequently asked questions? What are the should ask questions? And then each of those put like a 1 or 2 word thing that just reminds you of what the story should be that goes with that. And then just do the recording on Otter. Either sit with a friend and have them ask you the questions where you talk it out, or you just do it on your own. And then all of a sudden you have the content. So I would say from there, for the ghostwriter editor person would probably take about 45 days, maybe 60 days to get that done. But what we like to do is while they're doing that, then we start with the publishing and the marketing process. So what we want to do is start to rebrand you as an author and start to do a social media campaign, start to, give the cover out, get people like, hey, here's the cover. What do you think? Here are several covers, get the excitement going, get the energy going. And so then when they're done with the ghostwriter, we're about ready to have the book hit. Now, if you're already done with your book, then what we do from then, we can usually launch your book within 60 days.
Awesome. That's great. And so, these days, a lot of people are writing books. I think last statistics I looked at, there were like tens of thousands of books being published every day. So how do you stand out? How do you, make sure that people know about your book and they read it, whether they like it or not, that's a secondary thing. But how do you stand out?
That's a great question. So first of all, it starts with your cover. Make sure you have an awesome cover. Make sure if you're going to do this yourself, you get a graphic artist that really knows what they're doing. And so what that means, to break it down a little more, is I have seen covers where you can't really read the title because the title of the cover and the title of the background are almost the same color. So contrast, right? Dark with light or light with dark, bold, big, you want to have it really stand out. The other thing is that you want to have a great title. So you want to make sure that the title is something that says what your book is and who it's for, including the subtitle. And the thing that we do that if you're doing it yourself that you may not know is you've got to have great keywords. So you need keywords in the subtitle. You need keywords in your description. Right? So that's how people are going to find you. And then the other secret that we have is really having the the right categories. So we're really great at finding those categories that are good for your niche and that are going to propel you to #1 bestseller. So that's the other way to stand out in that. And then having doing a best-selling campaign. So that's what we do for every single one of our authors. We have a lot of strategies that go into that. And so we want to make sure when your book launches that it hits #1, and it's going to hit #1 in as many categories as possible. So Amazon, if you're just a layperson doing this, it only says you get 2 categories. But we have ways, and with our software and our relationship with Amazon, that we can get up to 10 categories and get you international bestseller. So that's what you want to shoot for, is to be on that first page of as many categories as possible and be on the hot new release list when you come out. So what we find is when we push you, it's like almost, you know what it's like? It's like getting a touchdown right at the kickoff of a football game. Right? So it pushes you all the way there, but then guess what? After you've done that, then you end up back at the 10-yard line or the 5-yard line. You scored a touchdown, and then you're on the 5-yard line, and it's easy to score again versus starting back at the other end zone. So that's what we do for our books, and your goal is to stay up into everybody's face as much as possible. And then the other part is that marketing, using that book for leverage for your business. So I think a lot of people, they're like, okay, I launched my book, now what? It's anticlimactic. So it's like, well, you need to have that plan of what you're going to do afterwards to get those clients in, to get that revenue. And just remember, it's not necessarily about how many book sales you're going to get. It's wonderful to get book sales, and it's great to have you at #1. We want to get you there. That's the goal, and keep you up there as much as possible. But your biggest revenue is not going to be getting $2 to $5 royalty on your books. It's really going to come in and using that book as an advertising tool to get that new client. So you got to say, how much is a new client worth to me? So we had Lauren Golden, who runs a website called Free Mama. It's a membership site. And she got 3 new clients within the first week because of her book that joined her membership site. So that's what the goal is, right? That's what pays for the book. That's what pays for the long-term revenue of the book. And you get to use that over and over and over again.
Yeah. Actually, that was the question I was going to ask. So how much revenue do you think people can expect to make? Like, is there anything that that they can earn as royalties, or is it mostly through the back end of the offer that they are going to put together?
Yeah, now you'll make some royalties, and it just depends on how much you're pushing the online sales of the book and the offline sales. So like if you're a speaker, we always recommend negotiating a deal that includes your books, whether they're purchasing the books or the price of the book is rolled into your speaking fee, right? So if you're speaking to 100 people, 200 people, 50 people, 1,000 people, you want to be able to roll those book sales into there for extra income. You will get income on online sales, but it's just not as much. I mean, a normal book, they always say like if you're going to publish your book and go out there, the lifetime of a book is usually 250 sales total. So our books average way more than that. We have one book now, it's even a fiction book that's doing about 70 books per day. So, but what we really say is, what is a client worth to you, right? What is the lifetime of a client worth to you? How many times does a client refer another client to you? So if you get one client, even that year from your book, and that client refers another client to you, what's the value of the first client for a lifetime, right? If you have products that they're buying from you over and over again, what's the value of that? And what's the value of the referral that they're going to give you of other clients? So we say the book pays for itself usually, depending on what you charge for a client, usually with one client.
Good. All right, that's great. And now I have specific questions about ghostwriters. So how do you match the author with the right ghostwriter, meaning, they have similar writing styles, maybe even similar background, similar life experiences. How does that work?
Great question. So for us, we have a team of ghostwriters. So when an author comes to us, we do that separately. Our packages are publishing and marketing, but we have ghostwriters that we work with. So usually we'll give you 2 or 3 names, and we want you to talk with them, see some of their work. It's very important to look at their work. Sometimes they'll even do a couple pages for you. So you may have some of your content. You'll say, hey, I want you to do this first chapter for me, or first 2 pages. I just want to see the style and make sure it's a good fit. We had an author who worked with a ghostwriter. He was a very, very busy man, and he did not look at any of the chapters, none of the work, until the book was done, and then he didn't like it. We're like, but hey, I mean, he was sending you content. You should have been looking as you were going on. So that's part of the responsibility on the author's part of it. So you want to make sure that's a good fit before you start, and talk about pricing as well. So it's really a personal thing because you're going to work with them. And we always stress to our ghostwriters is we don't want to lose the author's voice. It has to be the author's voice. If someone who knows that author is reading the book, it has to be like they're almost talking to them. They can hear their voice in the text.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Now, let's talk about the topic of the books. Like, do you think that any topic will work based on the expertise that the author has, or does it need to be more controversial, a little bit more edgy? Just like, we talk about social media where people put out clickbait posts and more sensational news just to get the audience. Like, which way do you think authors should lean?
Well, I really think authors need to pick the product or service that they want to sell the most. So we just heard the owner of Whole Foods. He spoke, and his book was his speech was his book. So if you're a speaker, that's what you want. So whatever your book is about, that's your platform. So was just working with someone from the Today Show, consulting with her, that she was one of the contributors on the Today Show. And she's like, well, I don't know, I could talk about so much different stuff. And then we honed it down that it really needs to be that she's consulting on how to do communication, and she wants those one-on-one coaching clients. So that's what the book needs to be about, all the benefits of that, what she does for that, how she teaches that. And you really give away a lot of the secret sauce in the book, which is okay, because then that person is like, man, I just want to work with her. Can she help me personally? And so that's what you want to gear it towards.
Yeah.
And it works for any business.
So let's not talk about your entrepreneurial journey. So you said that, this whole thing started on a whim. You took a retreat to Dominican. So tell us about that experience. Did you make any mistakes along the way? How did this all happen? Like, how did you grow the business?
Oh my gosh, mistakes along the way. I've run $100 million business before, but you're starting a business from scratch, and every business has its own idiosyncrasies and things like that. So you're learning along the way, and you have to learn not to beat yourself up. So if something goes wrong that you thought you should have known, but you didn't know, or it rears its head, you just got to say, okay, this happened. How do we fix it? And then correct it so it doesn't happen again, and move forward. I think that's something that the entrepreneurs get stuck in. And I teach my sons this too, because they're both pretty entrepreneurial. I said, a business can start and you're all excited about it. And then you get those first clients and it's climbing up like this, and something happens and all of a sudden it goes like this. And that's when people generally will give up. They can't take the storm. So then it's going to climb back up again. I say it's kind of like, think of your business as a Rubik's Cube. You're trying to find the formula so all the colors line up. So you might have one side, you're like, oh, I got all the orange side to line up, but then the rest is discombobulated. So you're still moving it around to find that right formula for your business and get the routine down, getting your systems down, getting your operations down, getting your team together, making sure your contracts are just right. So you learn it's a process as you go. So just remember, it's a process. You can't do it all at once. So you always have to adjust, and the economy changes, innovation changes. There was a guy who's one of our top advertisers from Gallery Furniture, Mattress Mac here in Houston. And I was just listening to a speech that he said when he started, there were 4 TV stations and maybe 10 radio stations, newspaper, billboards, and magazines. Now, and his company is still hugely successful, but they've had to change all the way that they do their advertising over the years, right? If he was just sticking with the old formats and the way that it was before, his business would die. So you have to constantly be innovative, I think, is another key thing to staying on top of business and keeping the faith when it's down.
Yeah, for sure. That's a great analogy of a Rubik's Cube. It feels like that all day, every day.
Yes.
All right. And, speaking of change, publishing industry itself is going through massive changes, right? Like back like 20 years ago, you couldn't dream of self-publishing. You had to, submit your manuscript to multiple publishers. So how are things changing still? Like, are they sort of settled down now? Is Amazon the right way to go? Or things are changing constantly again?
I love it. Has it settled down now? I'm like, no, I wish it did. I feel like it's like the updates to the iPhone. It's like every week there's something. So
Tricky question.
yeah. So
Question.
Amazon used to have a platform up until recently, let's call it like 6 months ago, called CreateSpace. And we did all of our paperback books there. Well, they decided CreateSpace was going away. They're not going to use it anymore. Everything is going onto the Kindle side. The paperbacks and the ebooks are all going to be Kindle. So we found when they switched everything over, everybody's sales went down by 50%. You're like, what's going on? So you're having to relearn all the algorithms again. They change their guidelines all the time of what they're accepting and not accepting on the book covers, the print, all of that. So it's staying on top of all of those things. And I have to say, I equate it to kind of building a house or remodeling a house. I said, go self-publish if you want to, but it's kind of like if you want to learn to be the electrician and you want to learn to be the tile layer and the drywall layer, go for it. Or you can hire a general contractor, which is like us, and then you just get to pick out the furniture and move in, right? So because it's always changing and the strategies are always changing. And we just got back from a conference called SellerCon. It's all about selling on Amazon and knowing the algorithms and the keywords and everything that you're supposed to do. And they were just commenting on how much it's changed just since last year's conference. So yeah, I equate it to the cell phone. Things are changing all the time. The algorithms are changing all the time. The guidelines and the rules are changing all the time.
Awesome. Okay, well, that's good to know. And you had various other career options as well. So can you tell us what benefited you in terms of the skill set that you brought over to the publishing industry? Maybe you learned something in the TV world, and also what did you have to unlearn? Like were there any skills that did not apply and you had to unlearn them for the publishing industry?
Yeah, that's interesting. So I think having a TV background has helped me greatly because I understand media, I understand advertising, I understand positioning in the marketplace, understood how to run a company, how to start a company from scratch, even though the TV business was way more daunting than starting the publishing industry. And there's a lot more competition. So when I started in TV, there wasn't much competition. So there's a lot more competition and less barrier to entry in the publishing business. But I think having that savvy and having that grit, like you say, of staying in and knowing how to figure out the Rubik's Cube has helped me tremendously. I think it gives the people we work with a lot of confidence knowing that I have this background in media. And then my business partner, Jen Foster, her background is web design and video marketing. So she has a great complement to what I know, and she's much more tech savvy than I am. Like I said in the beginning, I didn't know too much about the engineering. Well, she's the engineering tech part of the whole crew, so I can rely on her for that, and then I have the other business savvy. But she started a chain of retail outlets that she ran with her former husband, so she has a retail background. So I think we have a really great, unique combination of skills. And I think it's helped me a lot to see through the minutia for someone when they present a problem of how this is going to work for their business, not just about the book, but even their business in general. I have a way to be able to cut through and laser focus on how to help them. It's been a big thing.
That's great.
Unlearn is probably just, the old ways of advertising and embracing all the newness of all social media. But my sons have helped me because they're 18 and 19 right now. And along the way, they have kept me savvy along with all my other learning. So I feel like I know more than my contemporaries do for sure.
That's great. That's great. All right. That's very helpful. Now, before I let you go, can you tell us a little bit about your company, how people can reach out and talk to you and discuss their plans for authoring a book?
Sure. So go to eliteonlinepublishing.com. That's eliteonlinepublishing.com. You can fill out a submission form there if you have a book or don't have a book. So you can just leave as much or little information as you want. And then we can set up an appointment that you can talk to me. There's a phone number there. You can reach out as well. And we'd love to hear from you. And you can find YouTube videos that we have out. We have a podcast called Elite Expert Insider where we talk about books, but we talk about also how to be successful in your business as well.
Awesome. That's great. Thank you so much for being with us today and sharing all your knowledge about the publishing industry and how people can, become best-selling authors.
Thanks so much. We appreciate it. Glad to be here.
Hey, listeners and viewers. We have created a tremendous community of bootstrappers, entrepreneurs, and professionals who are ambitious, resourceful, and want to get things done. We brainstorm, support, and help each other out. Come join us. Navigate to bootstrapping.group. That is bootstrapping.group. And that's all for now. Until next time. And if you're an existing or an aspiring tech entrepreneur, then I invite you to check out my new online workshop, Bootstrapping Your Tech Startup Dreams. Go to bootstraptechstartup.com and sign up for free. I want to make sure that more successful and sound decisions are made every day in your tech projects. Let's start finding solutions to your problems. So go to bootstraptechstartup.com and I look forward to helping you with your tech projects. If you want more engaging videos and insightful interviews with industry's thought leaders, then check out other videos we have picked for you. The link is right there. And if you want to be notified about our new content, please do consider subscribing to our channel.